Another cold, shitty day out here in Ohio. It's time for a different kind of video. So this is my '04 Corvette that I recently purchased. The story of getting this thing is kind of short. So when I was purchasing the car, I found it on Facebook for a pretty decent deal at the time. So I drove out to the middle of the ghetto and met the guy, in which he confessed that it had some issues with it due to the fact of that he stated he drove drunk and hit a curb and smashed the front end and had to get a lot of the cooling system replaced in the front. However, there's a couple more quirks to the car that I'd like to introduce. The first one is this headlight. So as you can see on the passenger side, the fitment looks okay. It still is a little bit off, but not terrible. However, on the driver's side, the fitment is very off here, as you can see by this inset that's 100% not supposed to be there. Upon further inspection, their attempt to repairing this was they literally used like a cabinet hinge in order to get the frame mounted up to this panel for the headlight. So that's something I have to fix at a later point. Another quirk about the car is if you look at these seats, they look terrible just in overall condition. But wait, there's more. So whoever attempted to re-skin these seats did an awful job because they actually broke the motor, so it doesn't even go on this track at all. And this seat cover is not supposed to be going over this because behind this is actually the controls to move the seat. So at this time, I'm still currently debating if the seats are just going to be replaced with just some bucket seats or if I'm going to reskin them myself. I'm not exactly sure yet. I do like the lumbar support still actually works in these. So I think that's a really cool feature to have, and I don't really want to miss out on that. Other than that, it's other typical LS1 problems for this kind of year. The oil pressure sender unit doesn't work. The traction control and StabilTrak thing is broken. The solder points commonly fail. And then as well, the heads-up display doesn't work. Seeing how well the previous owner actually took care of this car, I have high doubts he actually was pretty good with his oil changes. So I'm going to be doing a somewhat of a flush of its engine oil. I'm going to be adding some seafoam into the crankcase, letting it run, get to operating temp, and then changing the oil out on this. So hopefully any sludge that might have collected in the lifters, or if I'm lucky, the filter that's with the oil pressure sender unit, it might clean that out, and actually I don't have to change that out. Otherwise, I got to take the whole air manifold off, which that's another problem for another day. I got about half a can's worth of seafoam. I'm just going to go ahead and put this in the crankcase. I also forgot to mention that the Corvette is also leaking oil. At least just from glancing at it and looking at it before, it looks like it's near the oil filter. So I don't know if the O-ring had failed on it and it's starting to leak because of that. Either way, we're doing an oil change, so we're going to get a chance to actually investigate and see what the root cause of that is. All right, I'm gonna let this thing get up to operating temp. Afterwards, we're gonna go drain the oil and we're gonna see how disgusting the oil is. So it looks like at one point this thing was actually using a K&N filter. And what's interesting is that since this car is so low, at some point it scraped and broke off. There's originally supposed to be like a nut on the bottom side of this that you use to like remove it more easily. But it looks like it got scraped off at some point and sheared it off to the point where the metal actually has a couple pinholes in it, which is allowing this oil to leak through. Another thing that's interesting on these Corvettes is that the drain bolt is actually facing towards the front of the vehicle, not the rear. It's a weird little quirk with one of these two. So let's go and loosen up this bolt and see what disgusting oil we get. So technically too, on these Corvettes, you're actually supposed to also jack up the rear. Jacking up the rear is more of a thing you should probably be doing, just because since the dream bolt is in the front, since the vehicle's tilted, not all the oil is going to come out, so you're going to have some residual on the bottom of the pan. So keep in mind, if you're going to be doing this, also try to jack up the rear, and so that way you actually get the full amount of it out of the pan. I'm going to be jacking it up. I'm just not going to be recording it, so you'll just have to take my word for it, I guess. Well, I'm sitting here waiting for the Corvette to drain all of its oil. I'm going to go ahead and start priming the filter. I'm just using the OEM original filter with the same mobile one that GM recommends for this year. Hopefully it doesn't appear to be any kind of damage on the threads on here, so it looks like thankfully all I did was just shear the bottom of that oil filter off. I was really nervous that the impact might have actually damaged the threads on the filter, but no, looks like we should be good. Just to go ahead and screw a new one in. Honestly, a little spill on here is the least of this car's problems. Okay, now that we've gone and added the fluids, let's go and start it up and check for any leaks. No leaks from the oil filter though. As you can see here, there's a new one, and there's nothing on the ground, so glad to see that was a simple fix. All right, no leaks, so we're looking good. For future stuff, not really sure what exactly I want to do with it. I'm hoping to in the summer put just like a mild cam in it. It's already got a Corsa exhaust on it with the X-Pipe, I believe that's on it. So I don't really have to worry about the exhaust. Definitely gonna do other maintenance related things like changing out the spark plugs and the spark plug wires, just doing general maintenance, stuff like that, and eventually changing out the oil pressure sensor. So also too, probably changing out the heads-up display and actually fixing that. So that way you can have that cool jet fighter style heads-up display that's really cool on these. So overall, I'm really happy that I got this thing, even though it is a complete clapped out hoopty. I'm glad to have it in my vehicle arsenal. So yeah, if you liked spending some time with me changing the oil in this thing and are interested in any of the future projects they got going on, still got some stuff going on with the Grand Cherokee. I'm going to be putting in the new steering link system from Trail Forge coming up soon. Bought lots of different parts for my WRX, so that's going to be coming out soon. So looking like 2024 is going to be a great year for here Dilemma Media. So thanks for watching and supporting the channel.